Hi, my name is Max. I'm part of the Anarchist Federation, who's part of the International Anarchist Federation, which is an international group of anarchists. I'm going to talk today about DAF. I'm going to try and pronounce this, the Devrimci Anarşist Faaliyet, which is a anarchist group which are based in Anatolia. It means the Revolutionary Anarchist Action Group. I first of all came across them about 4 years ago at one of the international anarchist gatherings. I was really interested in them at the time, particularly from sort of like what they were achieving despite being part of a very oppressive regime. So back in October 2019, we got a message to the Anarchist Federation asking for one of our members to come over and talk about anarchism in the UK, which I did. I opted in because I was very excited to go over there and learn more about it. So I went to Istanbul and I did a talk, and at the same time I learned a lot about sort of like how they organise around sort of like in Turkey and in surrounding areas, which I'd like to do a presentation about now. So as you can see in this first slide, this is just after I've done my talk. It's just to help. I did this picture just so I could help raise a bit more awareness of people, of the group, I mean. Right, so DAF was set up in 2010. It was part of several different groups coming together, at different anarchist groups coming together. Those groups still have separate meetings, but then they come together once a week. These once a week meetings are from 8:30 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. And during these meetings, they'll discuss what they've been up to, what they're going to do together as a group, over the next week, and also discussing politics as well. There's a lot of food and a lot of tea drinking involved in this, and a lot of good discussion. So all the groups must agree on certain principles. They discuss each point until everyone agrees. They always try to aim for full consensus. All the funds are communal, so it's everyone that's involved in the group. This is including stuff for daily living, so for clothes, for rent, for their food. It's all communal, and everyone puts their money from their jobs into it. Most of these different groups within DAF have their own website and their own magazine as well. And they produce a monthly newspaper, which they go out onto the streets and distribute. They go to big public areas, so big squares and main transport hubs. So they try and get it out, as many out as possible to as much of the public. So officially in Istanbul, there is 40 members in DAF. This was last year, so there's probably more. I haven't got up-to-date figures. But the group is much bigger than that, people involved. I think a lot of people won't join DAF because because there's a big thing of being non-violent, being pacifist in Turkey, mostly from conscientious objectors. But people in DAF sort of agree that for a revolution to happen, it will be violent. And obviously they'll try and do everything as peacefully as possible. But at some point, the state will not give up control of its resources without a fight. And so they believe they need to do this. But then other anarchists don't. They're trying to be as peaceful as possible. It's just I can kind of see where they're coming from such a violent area. Big part of DAF is that they're intersectional. This is very important to them. It was actually quite interesting because the first night I got there, I was talking to them about the TERF issue, the transphobia issue in UK anarchism, and they were really shocked by it. And they started debating like the sides of the argument, and were just sort of like, and in the end, like after like a few minutes, they just go, well, this is stupid. Like trans struggles are important. We need to be inclusive of like all working class struggles, and like that's part of it. So yeah, that was really interesting, and made me quite happy as well. Right. So this is Taksim 26A Cafe. This is where I stayed. Like I stayed in a room above this. This was their first cafe, which they set up in 2010. It's was 2010? I think I've got the facts in a minute anyway. So this is in the main. This is kind of like the centre of Istanbul. It's literally 5 minutes walk around the corner to Gezi Park, which I'll talk a bit about later if people don't know about it. It's sort of like, it's like 5 minute bus ride away from Parliament. This is down like a back street. It's like opposite it, there is a police station with like an armed police officer outside, but they don't seem bothered by this. But yeah, this is the cafe. It is very nice. So yeah, it's set up in 2010. The second cafe is set up in Kadıköy, which I've got pictures later on. So Taksim is on the European side and Kadıköy is on the Asian side. We don't know, Istanbul is the city which spans 2 continents. If you're looking at borders under this world that we have at the moment anyway. And Kadıköy is very much more of a alternative, I guess, like more student-y based area. But it's also running up against like gentrification as well. So all the cafes are voluntary run. They been going, so no one's allowed to do more than 2 shifts a week. So make sure that everyone has a go and no one's just doing all the cafe work. And the cafe work is important as it raises a lot of the communal funds which are needed for all the DAF members, including their rent and the bills and the funds for their various projects and finally supporting prisoners as well. It's open 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. A lot of the members of DAF live in communes. I said one of which was above this cafe. This is just a picture of like where the kitchen and stuff is, where they serve. And there's loads of anarchist slogans everywhere. They're not really shy about who they are. It's actually really nicely maintained, the areas. There's anarchist stuff written over the wall again. It's back. This is like their cafe, like their terrace area, which they have out the back. You can enjoy a bit of outside peace. Loads of cats everywhere. They really like cats in Istanbul. I don't think there's any in that picture. But yeah, and everyone feeds the cats as well. Quite a cultural thing. Anyway, this is the cafe in Kadıköy. Like I said, more of a young population in this area. This was the commune. This is the room that I stayed in within the commune in Taksim. It's the communal area and like it's normally sofas for the day for people to just hang out in, do work. So rent is very expensive in Istanbul. And like shared housing, like you would hear of in the UK, is massively unheard of. It's like if you're not married and a woman, a lot of it's almost impossible to find somewhere to live. You're kind of expected to stay with your family until you're married, which is not good, as a lot of these women will face domestic violence from fathers and later from husbands as well. There's quite a big increase around this. And I guess this is the intersectional area of DAF is trying to support people to get out of these situations, to raise awareness of it, to fight against it. And so, like, these communities are very important for the young anarchists. Otherwise, they might not be able to find anywhere else to stay. And again, like, if you're gay as well, like, your LGBT rights in Turkey are not good. It's basically, if you're known to be gay, you will be given, like, it will find it very difficult to find jobs as well as somewhere to live. I'll talk a bit more later about that as well. So their bunk rooms are shared. It's all everyone's responsibility to clean. There's basically no drug areas. Everything is shared. So like there's like different shoes because you've got to wear outdoor shoes and indoor shoes. Like your toothpaste and all these sort of things all shared out. And there's constant discussion about what is needed and what isn't because their lack of funds. But yeah, they also try and steal as much as they can as well because like it's like they try and try and get what they can just because like it's like a very expensive place to live. But yeah, if they organise and do it in this way, it's much cheaper to be able to fund everyone as well. So this is another area that they have as well. This is their workshop. This is where like I did my talk. It's got like a library within it. They do like self-defense training. They do workshops with kids and teaching them. They do flag making. They even got like up on the shelves here, you can see like there's passata that they made because they've got like some allotments, some land somewhere where they grow loads of food and that can help go towards a cafe to help it go throughout the winter as well. Yeah. This is where they do the newspaper and try and get it all printed and edited as well. So I just want to talk a bit about like the history of the Turkish state. So, by the way, this is Charlie the Huntsab. Or Charlie the Fox, you can find him on Twitter. I've got that somewhere as well. I'll show people the Twitter from a moment. Charlie's a very proud hunt saboteur and member of the YPG. But yeah, he came with me to Turkey as well. And everyone there thought it was quite cool and were taking pictures with him. Anyway, repression from Turkish state. So in the 60s to the 80s, there was this thing called strategy of tension, which saw sort of like the far right and the far left being able to sort of like build up. So they were constantly like fighting against each other. I think it's sort of like the left was doing really well. There was a lot of syndicalist unions. There's a lot of socialism, a lot of anarchism. The prisons were a great place for people to be recruited into, not recruited, that sounds terrible, to find out about anarchism and like radical politics. And so there was a military coup which aimed to stop all of this, to stop the rise of like anarchism and socialism in Turkey. I just realised I should probably do something at the start of this. I shall go back to it. I should actually say there's a lot of content warning for this because there is a lot of violence history within Turkey. So I'll just repeat that. Anyway, so when the military coup happened, they wanted to separate out the political prisoners from like the normal prisoners. And they created different prisons for them. There was a lot of resistance to this, which saw prisoners taking over the prisons, holding prison guards captive. The military responded to this with a lot of violence. They broke down the prison walls and just threw like poisonous gas in, which killed loads of people inside the prisons. This was called Operation Reclaim the Light, which was reclaiming the prisons. But yeah, so unfortunately the political prisoners were separated out. They're still separated out today, which is in some ways in some ways good, because if you're an anarchist, you can be expected to go to an anarchist prison, and you'll be in the cells with anarchist prisoners, and you can basically increase your knowledge about anarchism and be able to continue writing and doing stuff as well. But very difficult to recruit or to talk to other people about anarchism. And so after the coup, there was the time of OHAL until 2002, which was a state of emergency to deal with the Turkish-Kurdish conflict. And after this, there's been a state of emergency ever since 2016, since the failed coup. So this has just gone back to the cafe again. I forgot to say earlier that if you're an anarchist, if you've got no money, you can turn up to any of their cafes and they will give you free food, which is very good. They do have vegan thing in the menu, but that's very difficult within Istanbul. I think most of the stuff in the menu are vegetarian. I can't quite remember, but anyway. So opposite it, you've got a sports centre. So the normal social you'd find in any city, any town in the UK. So the first time I came to this cafe, there was a whole street. The whole street here was full of riot police who all had automatic weapons on. And they were only there because they wanted to... It was only going on because there was a game at the sports centre. But the police, they expect to be able to go to any cafe in Istanbul and be able to get free food and drink when they want it. The DAF refused to let them have anything. And while I was there, they refused. The police tried to sit down on the chairs at the tables on the opposite side of the street from the cafe. And the volunteers that day went over and just took the seats from them, which I thought was very brave. They were like, no, these are not for you. But yeah, that made me smile quite a bit. Anyway, organising and resisting. So they're involved in lots of different groups and actions. Every week, you've got the Saturday Mothers protests. I'll just show you. You can find, that was me trying to do it, Saturday Mothers, here we go. The Saturday Mothers, so they're a group which have been meeting since the 1995. Is basically when the military coup happened, a lot of people disappeared and it's by the state. And Saturday Mothers were they're the mothers of those who disappeared. And they started protesting, trying to find out what had happened to their loved ones. It was found out that they were tortured and murdered by the state. But their bodies have never been found. And Saturday Mothers still protest because they want to be able to bury their loved ones. So they do this every week. And it's met by a lot of violence by the state. When I was there, I went to one of these protests. You had to go through to get into it. It was down a back street outside I don't remember what it's called. It was at an international peace place. But they you have to go into the demo. You have to go through a pat down by the police, by armed police, to search you, and then you have to go into a kettle surrounded by riot police. And each week the mothers do a vigil they take it in turns for different people who have died. The week I was there was just after Turkish state had invaded northern Syria into the Kurdish areas. And so I was warned beforehand that things might turn violent because the Saturday Mothers would be against this and they will raise something about it. It was sort of 5 minutes into the demo this happened. The person reading out said, we want peace. We don't like the war that's happened. We don't like this invasion. At that point, the police attacked the demo, hitting people. Again, this is people in their 60s and 70s now. And the police dispersed the demo very quickly after that. Right, I'll go back to this. Slide. Okay. Yeah. The other thing I want to talk about was Gezi Park. The DAF were heavily involved in Gezi Park, which was big uprising in 2013. Originally, it was around like Erdogan was wanting to build a new shopping mall on the last bit of green land, parkland in Taksim. People protested this, sitting in trees, attaching themselves, like chaining themselves to the trees, and it quickly spread. There was like a lot of and I'll go back to it again. You can find out about this. Go to Wikipedia. It was sort of like became more for sort of like against sort of like the current regime and the authoritarianism of it, of the regime which happened. You end up with like a couple of million people got involved with the protests. There was like 22 deaths, a lot of people arrested, but they kept on going and people were like really involved with this, and it spread from outside of Istanbul as well. So this was a very big thing in 2013. So the prisoner support, they do a lot of prisoner support, which I'll talk a little bit more again in a minute. They also do a lot around conscientious projecting, because if you're a man, then if you're seen to be a man, then like you have to do a year's military service. So again, like no one in DAF wants to do, because this basically means being sent to the front line if they see you as a radical. If you're one of the minority groups, so Alawi or Kurdish, you're most likely to get to a very dangerous position, sent to the front. As well, like the government introduced things to try and encourage people to go to it. Like you can get reduced service time to 8 months if you're part of the university, if you get a degree, or a month if you pay a certain amount of money to the government. So if you're rich, you only have to do a month's service. But everyone in DAF is basically like, no, you shouldn't have to do it in 1 day is too long, 1 hour is too long. We must refuse to fight for the state. So other things, they do a lot of stuff with schools. Like there's quite a few people in DAF who are in school, and they do a lot of organising around exams, like not like sitting exams. There's Women's Liberation Movement. They do stuff every year around International Women's Day. Again, this is intersectional group. They've done quite a lot around like domestic violence and stuff as well. So they've done a lot, also do a lot around like Kurdish struggle and other cultural struggles, because like a lot of this is banned within Turkey, as like Turkish state just wants like their Turkish culture celebrated and not anything else. So just to even celebrate some of this stuff is sort of like breaking the law. They also do a lot of work-based organising. This is when they break out the red and black flags that you see in this picture. You can also see they tend to take quite big banners and things that can protect the crowd as well, because police can get quite violent. Again, they do stuff at university, and they do a lot around environmental struggles and ecology, as I see this is like quite a big struggle, or a very important struggle as well. And they also do a lot of support having people cross borders, which I'll go into a bit more detail in a bit. So Kurdish struggle. Like I said, a lot of people in DAF are from different cultures that are oppressed by Turkish state, including some of them are Kurdish. I had a little bit of history here about sort of like they're saying as anarchists they avoided being part of PKK before, like avoided working with PKK because they saw it previously as a national liberation movement and it was very hierarchical. But like after the imprisonment of Apo and Apo's like change of views, they started to see a lot of like Kurdish people started self-organising. They were doing stuff themselves, like going out onto the street and burning cars and protesting without like the central committee. So as anarchists, they saw this as like now a people's liberation rather than national liberation. They see like the Kurdish area as being like a democratic federalism. Like it's not anarchist, but it's a hell of a lot better than anything else. And they feel like it's something that they can help to change and be a part of, which is good. And they also told me very proudly that they're the first anarchists to wave a flag at Newros, which is the Kurdish New Year. This was in 2009, so DAF hasn't been formed yet, but they were very organised. I think in the top picture here, that's them celebrating Newros by jumping over a fire. And the bottom picture is them at the border when Turkey tried to invade the Kurdish area a few years back. So they've done a lot of work at the border. So at the start of the revolution in Rojava and surrounding areas, they made a lot of leaflets and posters and trying to get the news out as much as possible within Turkey and North Syria. Like when Kobani was attacked, they went to the border and they did like human chain and vigils trying to stop sort of like arms getting across the border into over, because Turkish state tends to fund ISIS. They sell the Daesh. They like buy Turkish state buys like weapons from the UK and as well as other countries, and then ships this across the border to give to ISIS. And they also supported then a lot of refugees who were fleeing North Syria at the time because of all the troubles that are happening in Syria. And the army was trying to pick up all the refugees, put them into camps. And the Turkish state had also laid lots of mines to try and kill people. So DAF were there as well, other people trying to help people across the border safely and get them far into Turkey so they won't end up in the camps, because the camps are very not very well. They're not very well looked after. It's a difficult place for people to be. So DAF were doing this, and they had to avoid the army as well as sort of like fascists that had gone to the area as well. There is more about this as well. I've got this open somewhere. You can read more about this. Is it this one? It's this one. Here we go. So this is an interview in English with DAF, talking about why they were at Kobani, why they were sort of supporting Kobani and stuff as well. They did cross the border and go to Kobani to give aid as well. Yeah. God, hang on. I've gone back to the start there. Right. So there's a lot of collaboration, like I said before, between Turkish state and ISIS. There has been quite a lot of bombings of revolutionary groups. So, bad spelling on this, I'm sorry. But there's been several bombings of sort of like anarchist groups. So there's a bombing in Ankara, which was like a protest meeting against war, demanding peace. It was a lot of unions and stuff involved as well. And like, I think it's 113, but I can't quite remember. But yeah, it's a lot of people died at this. And the first reaction from the Turkish state was to rush in with the police and start tear gassing the protesters. Police were stopping ambulances from getting to people and attacking the protesters who'd just been bombed. There was also a bombing in and terrible pronunciation, Syria, which is that was when a lot of young people were trying to get supplies over to Kobani after the first when it's first under siege, and that got attacked as well. There is a documentary which I watched when I was there, which I'll have to try and find the link of for it in a bit, and attached to the programme. But there's a link about those that were killed in the Ankara bombings. At the moment, they don't feel like it's safe. They had a lot of people in DAF who went over to join in with Rojava and the Kurdish areas in the area, when that was first taken by the Kurdish, by the YPG and PKK and stuff. But they feel like it's not safe for them to be in contact with their comrades over there. But always very interested to hear about what's happening from third party people. And there's a lot of people too scared to come to meetings because of the risk of attack as well. But they still DAF still meet and still think it's very important to do these things. So conscientious objecting. So like I said, it is compulsory to do 1 year service for men who were given the identity of men. So you go, it's 5k. If you've got £5,000 roughly, then you can get away with just serving 1 month. But there's still a lot of conscientious objectors a year, so DAF do a lot of work around trying to organise with them and trying to support them and trying to get people working together to create a bigger movement. You can go to prison if you're a conscientious objector. You might end up in prison if you don't. You also need a lot of evidence to actually prove that you are a conscientious objector. And so they have to work with legal groups to be able to prove that you don't want to fight, which just seems bizarre, but they have to do this, otherwise you end up in a military prison. There's also a thing, if you're gay, they won't accept you in the army. But then the problem is that you get a pink paper, which means that you aren't allowed to get a lot of state jobs. A lot of jobs are state run. So then it's quite difficult to get a job because you're prejudiced against if you're gay. And I think I've got a link up for that as well. This is this one. So this was the newspaper on their conscientious objector website. So if you want to find out more information on that, they normally have a few English articles on each of their websites. Right. So prison support. So like I said before, there are 2 types of prisons. Those for if you're a political prisoner or not political prisoner. Again, like I said, it's good if you're learn theory, but not good for organising prisoners. The prisons are very overcrowded because since the attempted coup in 2016, it's meant Erdogan, who's the dictator, the fascist leader of Turkey, he's basically used the coup as a way to try and imprison as many people that disagree with him as possible. So you'll find a cell which is made for 3 people now containing 15 people. You got Umar Farah, is a member of DAF. He went on death strike a couple of years ago, I think, because he was put into the wrong prison. He was put into I think it's a socialist prison instead of an anarchist prison. So, and then he wasn't being allowed to see his family. So he went on death strike for 55 days until the prison gave in. And there's a lot of protests and support around this. but he won. So he was able to now see his family. He's been moved to an anarchist prison, and he's much happier where he is, and he's able to contribute a lot to DAF as well. He still writes articles for the newspaper as well. There is sort of like a thing of sort of like not like it can be quite dangerous for if you identify if the state sees you as a man to go to visit people in prison, because if you haven't served your military service, then the state might kidnap you and just send you to the front line. They've also been supporting like a trans prisoner because she was put into a male prison, and they're trying to get her transferred to a female prison. So, like I said before, DAF is made up of different groups that come together to support each other. Here you can see the links to all the different groups. I think there's all of them, but there is quite a few. Let's see if I can get some up. I think I've got the... that's about that. This was about Ankara bombings. I think this is the women's group, yeah. Yeah, this is the women's group of DAF. And so there's lots of videos on here of like actions that they've done. And they've got like Facebooks as well. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And now we're going on to videos. I've already got this up. Sorry. I'm flicking back and forth. So here's the first video. This is from... sorry. So this was in 2018. This was young workers because there's an economic crisis. Oh God, sorry. There's an economic crisis. A lot of young people can't find work in Turkey. As you can see, there is a lot of anarchists in Istanbul, far beyond the 40 people involved in DAF. Yeah, I was amazed at sort of like how big their demonstrations are. So I'll turn that one off. This is a very long video to just show a little bit of it. Again, I was quite impressed. This was like in solidarity of Alexis. That's all right. The young Greek guy that was killed, again, like a few years back. And this is a big demonstration that they had in solidarity with sort of like with him and the repression that's been happening in Greece. But again, if you can find this on Facebook, if you just follow the link at the top. You should be able to watch the whole video. Again, like there is a lot of police violence in this, so just be aware of that. There it's 2014. You can also find a lot more on their websites around stuff. This is a bit happier one. This is from Newros in 2014. So this is just them celebrating Kurdish New Year. It was just sort of like they just went down, they just had a march down to the harbour, down to the harbour front, waterfront, and just sort of like, they did this with HDB, which is the Kurdish political party, which is based in Turkey. So yeah, they went down to the front and they had a big party. That's not really working. Let's skip forward a little bit. But yeah, there's building like a tower, like human tower and stuff. But yeah, they were saying like if you go out on like big groups and stuff like this, and no one, the police find it very difficult to stop you. So I think. All right. So yeah. So that's it. I'm trying to keep in contact with DAF and finding out what's happening over there at the moment. And we're sharing a lot of information, like since the coronavirus hit, they've been trying to get videos. They've been doing a lot of work of getting videos from anarchists from around the world and like bringing them together about what they've been up to during this crisis and what it means, like the state's reactions and stuff, which is very good. So you can check that out. That should be on their website. They've also been doing, I don't think there has been other actions and stuff they're doing. But yeah, if you want to find out more about keeping updates, then please contact Anarchist Federation. Again, like if you would like to go and visit DAF, they are always really up for meeting new people. As sort of like they want to get people learning about them, and I think like they're a group that we can really learn from about how to like organize ourselves to be able to do much more with sort of like few people. Like I did find like my own visit there quite intense because it is constant, but for them like there is like they can't rest. I got very much this sense that they could not rest because they are in a very they are living under like a fascist state, and they have had raids on their cafes, they've been imprisoned, their comrades have been killed, and so it's very important for them to be organized. And I think this is a group that a lot of us can learn from. Anyway, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy the London Anarchist Book Fair this year from the safety of your own living rooms. So hopefully like no big fights this year, which would be a bonus. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.